Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Sean Ewing. We've been at this for a while, actually. Alright, so we're heading towards the end of the green octave. This is actually the last series within the green octave. And ultimately, the green octave is about unconditional love. So that's going to be the final concept and really the thing that we're going to get in front of. But to do that, we have to go to the very beginning, because the rational mind needs to understand the origin, the presence, and the destination in order to really be able to practically apply a concept. So unconditional love is really where you have to get in front of the truth of polarity, the polarity nature of existence itself. And this is part of the superstructure talk that we had last time about the graces. The grace being one of the superstructure, that which allows an individual to, in essence, be absolute, to be sovereign in their own reality. You take that a little further, you move into the subtlety layer. The mental aspect of that is the understanding of polarity being intrinsic to all density, to all matter. The polarity ultimately breaks down in the simplest form to light and sound. That's what everything is constructed of. So you should learn first the absolute concept, meaning learn the masculine point of view from the purest specimen of masculine energy that exists, which is light. Learn feminine expression from the purest sense of feminine existence that we interact with, which is sound. These are the ultimate base primal expressions of the two forms. And all of the other more dense forms of that, so light slowed down and condensed, which is all matter, is that same lesson, but stretched out so individual aspects can be accentuated. But never forget the source as you're experiencing it. Saying, as light, as the light portion of who I am, as a light portion of the construct, what is this particular facet of myself speaking of? When you understand the base concept, the overt, the masculine idea, then the subtlety, the feminine idea, or the sounds become possible to perceive. But until you have reconciled the overt nature of what it is you're experiencing, you can't actually experience what's beyond. The overt is meant to be exactly that, the gravitator of attention. Because what it does is subtly prompt you then to choose how you grant that attention, or if you do or not. It's the motivator of action. And sound becomes the instigator of action. And then light moves into it, and the cycle continues. By understanding push and pull, light and sound, electricity and magnetism, masculinity, feminine, line, curve, anyway, rational, emotional, spiritual. When you can understand the concept and the negative in the context of your own inner being, when you can look within yourself and say, that which is of me is both the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, the sound and the light and the sound. How do I express myself in those given facets? What is your sound? That is a feminine concept. What is your light? That is a male concept. This applies specifically to the concept of density. It's the way to best understand the density life that you're living now. If you understand it based on its own intrinsic language, then the interpretation becomes a intimate thing. It speaks directly to you if it's coming from you. Meaning, if you wait for somebody else to define for you what goes on within yourself, then it's always a disassociated learning. And ultimately, that is going to be a diminished form. The most potent learning, the only one that truly makes a significant impact on all the layers of who you are, is internal knowing. Coming to your own wealth source, and then trusting the source of the information that's flowing out of it, viewing it as it comes equally within all forms of polarity, accepting that light and sound makes up everything, doesn't bind you to be light or sound. It just says that, hey, these are the basic materials. Look at them as they are, and they will teach you more. Then the density becomes a subtle application. You're no longer confined within the density model. You're just aware that they're there. And then you could start working on the subtlety aspects. Seeing the overt, and then seeing the subtle as it interacts with it and augments it, as it changes. Not the change itself, but what instigates the change and what welcomes it when it happens. These are the feminine concepts. They're the cushion that allows for sort of the bearability of the structure of the movement. If you look at the colors, the spectrum as it exists, the masculines exert their existence. Red, yellow, and blue. That's why they're the primary colors. The feminines augment and adapt those existences. Orange, green, and violet. They're both mixtures of the primal male concept. This is what is possible when you get to see polarity on its own terms, masculine and feminine, and then you say, okay, how are these useful? How do they interact within me? Because I'm made up of that material. I'm constructed that way as well for this experience. So then you get to know it on its own term, and you learn the lesson as it speaks it. And then what happens is you learn your own capacity for communication within and without. I'm able to communicate to you extremely complex ideologies in the simplest form fashion because I've necessitated that interaction within myself. I've asked of myself for the simplest version that I might understand it and be able to apply it in my own life. The density then becomes a reverse thing. If you get far enough out in the subtle, you see how the subtle manifests the overt, the dense. So you can start crafting in the spirit. You can be aware of grievances within your vessel when they're in the spirit. And what happens is you do the work in the spirit, and what manifests in the physical density is precisely what you intend to be there. There's only conscious crafting of your reality and participation, or unconscious crafting of your reality without participation. Those are the only two options, and they are also masculine and feminine. They're the simplest form. So this becomes a thing. You are a very construct of power. Your very nature is to be power, to be powerful within every density. So the choice becomes incumbent because you can't abdicate it. Even if you choose not to choose, it's still your power. You're just choosing to give it away. And it's still your power, it's just you guarding yourself from it. The only real choice is the choice of self-expression on your own terms, for your own reasons. And then to find those who are of a like mind with you and perhaps seek a synergistic path to that goal which is yours. And theirs, and yours. Or to seek it on your own. Because this is where we're going to get to the root of it. This is the reason why I wanted you to understand the overt application of light and sound. Because now you'll be able to understand the spiritual application, which is a choice ultimately between self and others. And this is what the whole shebang is about. This is what the harvest is about. This is what this time, this convergence is about. This is what all these talks are for. I am actually a harvester. It is my job, or rather my chosen vocation, that which I have uniquely equipped myself to do. I've made it probable that I would fulfill this role, but at the same time I made it so I had to do it as a rational choice that was righteously informed of everything that would be necessary for the role itself. And then I chose to be a harvester. The choice is basically this. You have to align at this juncture either with the path of self or the path of others. And I don't mean you have to yoke yourself to those paths. I just mean you have to understand the rules that apply to each and seek them as the predominant theme of your life. Self, the path of self is about density, but reverse density, egoic mass, basically, either of form or of social mass or of metaphysical mass. Ideally of all three. If you're going to ride it hard, then you have to understand that all things truly and intrinsically are you. and still knowing that, say, everything should bow down to me. If you can do that, then you understand the path of self, and you'll be able to love yourself unconditionally within it, and you will have met the precept to advance within the harvest. What you're going to be advancing to is fucking hardcore, so prepare yourself. The path of others is precisely the opposite. It's saying the density model, the impermanent model of who I am ultimately is of little importance when comparison to the larger application, which is the oneness model. Dissolving the ego for the I thing, for the all thing. And that's the pure representation of that. Obviously, the benefit of it is not only enjoyment, but ease and peace, love, relaxation, subtleties. However, for one, each one of the polarities is a negation of the other form. The path of others negates the path of self. The path of self negates the others. We're actually ready for the third by this point. And this is going to take us into the totality. Alright. The harvest itself is only about your place within unconditional love of either self or others. Self as understanding you are all things. Others as understanding all things are you. And those are the basic choices that, that's a basic question that one would need to get in front of in order, in a fourth density situation, going to fifth, to be ready for the next step. Fifth is wisdom. And then it stops being about sort of the path of self and the path of others, and becomes more about efficiency in whatever chosen path that you're on. The totality alignment says, I am light and sound. I am self and other. I am density and non-density. Anyway, I'm light and dark. I'm masculine and feminine. In given moments, in given stretches of the now, I express all of them openly, but I'm not bound to any. The lessons of both are valid and sort of righteous in and of themselves, so I adhere to those lessons and I seek wisdom when I'm vibrating at that frequency, meaning when I'm doing an act that is enhanced mostly by the self. Especially in a social form. We've set up the social frequency to be recognized through the veil of the ego, so to deprive and atrophy your own ego is to deny your ability to actually interact at that frequency, so you truly can't change anything. Not in a reality that's actually calloused around the idea of the ego. To get inside, you need to be of a like material. You could go for the non-ego version, but you would only be able to make a significant and diluted impact within the path of others. That becomes the problem. The path of self ultimately is driving the force of creation. So it is a masculine version of existence that is necessary for the perpetuation of the cycle. The most efficient means is to live as both, to act and reflect on action, to move and then stop movement, to seek stillness even while you are in motion, to strive not to strive. These are final concepts. And then when you get to them, you realize, man, I can be the void in all substance, in all interaction. And then I can interact with the light in the manner that is going to cultivate the reality that I want. We are moving towards a joint collective reality that is also rationally righteous, that does not abdicate or aggrandize any version of existence. Meaning, I'm not going to put the mind above the body, or the body's wisdom above the spirit's, or the spirit, body, and mind's wisdom above the nothings, the no things. They are all singular focuses of consciousness that have specific messages in the overt and the subtle. Listen to them as they are, and the lessons begin to shape all the reality that you're interacting with, and it becomes malleable. That's true magic, true alchemy. You can then shape yourself into any form you want, and recognize that yourself is everything that exists, and it takes the same shape. Shape the world. Shape it with me. Shape it along with me, and you will not be alone. I love you. Bye.